So when we talk about parallelograms, I'm talking about a quadrilateral that has opposite sides parallel. Here's how you prove in the coordinate plane. This is in general, not just for parallelograms. You're going to have to figure out what are the slopes, what are the side lengths. Obviously for parallelograms, you don't have to figure out the side lengths. The only thing that matters is the slopes, because we're talking about parallel. Later on this week, we'll have to deal with things that are perpendicular, so you'll have to look at the slopes for that as well. And then you'll write a proof in paragraph form. The first thing that you need to say is, what is the definition? A parallelogram is a quadrilateral with opposite sides parallel. That's like your given statement. We know that to be true, or at least we just decided that it is, and so we're going with it. And then we say how we know. So you have to say, okay, it's a quadrilateral. How do you know this is a quadrilateral? Then we have to say that the sides are parallel. How do you know that the sides are parallel? And then put those things together, say, I know that this shape is a blank because these things are true. Okay. Prove that quadrilateral KLMN is a parallelogram. Start by saying the definition. We just wrote it down. A parallelogram, don't write too big because you're going to need some space. Parallelogram is a quadrilateral with opposite sides parallel. That's like your given statement. Okay. We're going to stop with our proof for now, and we're going to figure out what's going on with this shape. In order for opposite sides to be parallel, what needs to be true of their slopes? Same. They have to be the same. So go to your shape, your polygon, and figure out the slopes. Remember, slope is rise over run. So figure out the slope. We'll start with this one. You can make a slope triangle. The slope of LM is going down 2 over 1. So the slope of LM is -2. And then the other one should be the same if it's a parallelogram. Double check. It goes down 2 over 1. It is also -2. Hooray. That's good, because it has to be in order for it to be a parallelogram. Okay, now we need the slope of the other lines or other segments. Looks like that one goes up 1 over 1. So it has a slope of +1. So MN has a slope of 1. Does KL have a slope of 1? Yes, 1 over 1, which is 1. Okay. So you know that we do have slopes that are, or we do have opposite sides parallel because we have slopes that are the same. But you need to tell me first what you know to be true about the slopes of parallel lines. So you have to say to me first, so opposite sides parallel. Parallel lines have slopes that are the same. You need to say that in your proof. Parallel lines have slopes that are the same. And then you get into the part where you start telling me what the slopes are, so you can tell me that they're parallel. So look at the actual letters. When I say be specific, you have to use the names of the sides. You can't just say 2 of the sides have slopes of -2. The other 2 have slopes of 1. No. You have to say that LM and KN have the same slope of -2. So we'll start with that one. LM and KN both have slopes of -2. So are they parallel? Yes, so then you say, so they are parallel. And then do the same thing with the other two sides. So we just did LM and KN. Now you have to do KL and NM. KL and NM both have slopes of 1. So they are also parallel. Okay, so you've talked about the fact that they have parallel sides. How do you know it's a quadrilateral? It has 4 sides. So we know it's a quadrilateral. This shape is a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides. We say this figure or this shape is a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides, just a polygon, whatever you want to say. Because it has 4 sides. Okay, now last statement. Because it's a quadrilateral and opposite sides are parallel, it is a parallelogram. You could say therefore if you want to be really fancy. Therefore, because it is a I messed that up. Because it is a quadrilateral, with opposite sides parallel, we know that K, L, M, N is a parallelogram. I know it's more writing than you're used to doing, but all you're doing is just explaining to me, how do you know? Make sure you look at the definition, you explain each part. How do you know it's a quadrilateral? How do you know the opposite sides are parallel? If you can explain that to me, and then conclude with a sentence like this, good. The other thing we're talking about today is perimeter. How do we get perimeter? Add up all the sides. Okay. So we talked about distance last week. We're not done with finding distance. You need to find the distance of each of those segments, or each of those sides. So I'm going to write down perimeter. You add up all the sides, the side lengths. As we talked about last week, you can use Pythagorean theorem to find side lengths. So I would make some right triangles. In a parallelogram, one of the properties we'll talk about tomorrow is that opposite sides are congruent. So those side lengths are 2 and 4. So we'd use Pythagorean theorem. 2 squared plus 4 squared equals c squared. You're going to need a calculator. You can round to the nearest tenth. And then the other sides, the other set have side lengths of 2 and 2 if you make a right triangle. So you have to do Pythagorean theorem twice. If you need a calculator, make sure you grab one. I think on one of them you're finding the square root of 20. On the other, you're finding the square root of 8. If you don't have a calculator, can you grab one? Probably easier to use decimals instead of simplest radical form here, just because you're adding up 4 sides. So better this way. What did you get? 2.8. The square root of 8 is approximately 2.8. What's the square root of 20? 4.5, round it up. I know it's 4.47, you have to round it up to 4.5. So add up all the sides. You have 2 side lengths that are 4.5, and you have 2 that are 2.8. So add them all up, and you get the perimeter. So then the perimeter has to be 14.6.